And we continue with step 9, which is made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. All right. We're on page 140. Making amends to those we have harmed. It is time to take out the list of people we have harmed by our behaviors. Now, we are approaching some direct amends. We are getting ready to say, this is what I did, and I'm sorry, in word and behavior. These are the people to whom we did something inappropriate, people we need to take care of ourselves with because we did something wrong. We may have lied, manipulated, used, abused, controlled, or inappropriately expressed anger to these people. Excuse me. In some ways, these people suffered from our codependent behaviors. And now we are trying to make things right. We are on our way to freeing ourselves from guilt, taking responsibility for ourselves, removing ourselves as victims, and restoring these relationships. As we said earlier, our children and those closest to us are often high on this list. Those around us suffered most because we were suffering. Sometimes employers, employees, or coworkers are on this list. Sometimes we owe money to people. Sometimes we owe an apology to someone from our past. Maybe an ex-boyfriend or an ex-girlfriend or an ex-spouse, even an ex-in-law. Ooh. Sometimes friends or neighbors are on this list. We become ready to go directly to this person and without defenses own our behavior, then apologize or make any appropriate restitution, except when to do so would cause more harm to other people. We want to be honest. We want to take care of ourselves with people, but we do not ever want to make a bigger mess than the one we are cleaning up. I'm going to read that again. We want to be honest. We want to take care of ourselves with people, but we do not ever want to make a bigger mess than the one we are cleaning up. Sometimes an amend requires direct contact with the person. We say what we did and then apologize for our conduct. We do not talk about what the other person did. We do not justify or rationalize what we did. If we need to explain briefly, we may. The fewer words we use, the better. The most important ones are, this is what I did, and I am sorry. For example, I did really crazy things trying to control you or your addiction, and I'm sorry. I drove you nuts obsessing about Harvey, and I am sorry. I was angry at you and insisted, and instead of dealing directly with my anger, I've been taking pot shots at you and treating you unfairly. I am sorry. Pot shots are digs or insults or jabs or sarcasm. There's the other one. Sometimes our amends are to the people we do not intend to maintain a relationship with. This may be true in the case of making an amend to an ex-employer or an ex-spouse. We simply want to clear our side of the fence. Some of these amends are immediate amends. They are amends that can and should be made right now. Sometimes these amends are future amends for a variety of reasons. It may be better to let some time pass before going to that person. Maybe feelings are at an all-time high. Maybe we are not yet clear on exactly what our part was. Maybe we are not yet entirely ready. For whatever reason, the timing is not right, so we wait. But we have a reasonable deadline in mind. Often, in this process of making amends, I ask for God's guidance. I become willing. I know I need to take care of myself with someone. Then I ask God to help me. Sometimes it feels right to wait for a while to let that particular issue go. Sometimes, soon after I ask for guidance in making a particular amend, I either become aware that it is time to take action or I run into that person. The opportunity arises and it feels right. That doesn't mean it isn't scary. Each time I prepare to make an amend, I feel a flutter in my stomach. It scares me to go to people, admit I did something wrong, and say I'm sorry. But each time I do, I feel good. One of the most profound natural highs I've discovered in recovery is the feeling that comes from being honest with people, no matter how afraid I am, then saying I'm sorry when that is appropriate. Sometimes saying I'm sorry is not enough. We need to make restitution by changing how we behave toward someone. Of course, we cannot and do not need to promise perfection, but a sincere desire to handle ourselves differently helps. We may decide we need to change behaviors with children, a spouse, a loved one, or a friend. When I began recovery from codependency, my capacity to nurture my children was low. My ability to set and stick to limits with them was even lower. I did apologize to them for not being a good parent, but they needed more from me. They needed a mother who could combine discipline with nurturing. They needed a mother who would set consistent, reliable boundaries, limits they could count on. An interesting event took place recently. My two children, Nicole and Shane, myself, and their friend were sitting at the kitchen table chatting. The friend was talking about how she had recently been grounded for something she had done, but 45 minutes later, her mother forgot about the grounding. "Oh, yeah," Nicole said. "My mom used to be like that. Now she's changed." Then my daughter smiled, a comfortable smile. I could see she felt safe. The struggles I had gone through to own my power with the children had been worthwhile. The energy I had put into learning to set and stick to reasonable limits with my children had paid off. They liked the security of knowing I meant what I said. "My mom's just not so codependent anymore," Nicole said. "The purpose of amends is not to change forgive me. The purpose of amends is not to change others or expect anything different from them. The purpose of amends is to take responsibility for our own behavior, clean up any messes we've made, and feel good about our conduct in relationships. Often I've found that even when an amend involves changing our behavior, a brief explanation and an amend for past conduct are helpful too. The words, "I'm sorry," are potent, healing words. How often have we wished someone would say them to us? Not the "I'm sorry" we hear from addicted people in the throes of remorse, but a straightforward apology. Apologies can have a healing impact on our relationships. We cannot control whether we ever hear an apology from anyone else, but we can do our part to bring healing to our relationships. Sometimes our amends are financial amends. We need to make restitution in more than words or changed behavior. We need to pay back money. Many of us begin recovery from codependency, strapped with huge financial burdens. I've talked to many people who have owed $30,000, $50,000 or more when they began recovery. The debts are usually the result of our participating in a dysfunctional relationship, getting in over our heads, and finding ourselves, not our partner, strapped with a financial burden when the relationship ends. Sometimes we borrow to help the other person out. Sometimes financial unmanageability becomes part and parcel of the codependent package. The willingness to take responsibility for our current financial problems is critical to recovery. Many of us have allowed ourselves to be terribly financially victimized by another. That is a hard blow to take. But if we are going to recover, we must begin now to bring reparation and healing to that area of our lives. We do whatever we can to bring fairness and equity to the situation. If there is any way to relieve ourselves of financial responsibility that belongs to someone else, we take steps to do that. That is part of making amends to ourselves. As much as possible, we take steps to ensure that each one of us is financially responsible only for himself or herself. We no longer allow ourselves to be further victimized or martyred. Sometimes, in order to take financial responsibility for ourselves, we do end up biting the proverbial bullet. Sometimes our credit is shot. Sometimes we are stuck with another's debt, whether we like it or not. I believe we can and should take assertive steps to protect ourselves as much as possible. But if we have done what we can, yet still find ourselves responsible for someone else's debt, we often need to face and accept that fact. Sometimes the attitude of willingness alone begins to bring healing and manageability to that area of our lives. Sometimes taking even the smallest steps to make financial amends sets in motion a powerful force. Miracles begin to happen when I took financial responsibility for myself and began to make amends for the money mess I was in. Oh yes, I felt victimized. Yes, I had allowed myself to be victimized. Yes, I had a lot of feelings about that. But to move forward, I needed to work through the feelings and begin to work toward a solution. That loud whine is the train, it sounds like. So we might get us. No, that sounded like a rooster. I want to be fair, there's a lot of noises going on. If you're here, there's a lot. That one was definitely a cock-a-doodle-doo. The high-pitched whine is usually train brakes. I mean, it's kind of late for him to be up. Making all that noise. I wonder if it's like a fake one. Do they have fake roosters? Okay, we continue. Or me. I continue. I do not have a mouse today. I stopped blaming the financial mess on the other person and began to take financial responsibility for myself. I stopped allowing myself to be victimized. I protected myself legally. Then I set a goal to make financial restitution. I called creditors and sent letters. I began faithfully to make the payments I could afford. At the time, that usually amounted to $5 a month, sometimes on bills of $5,000. The creditors wanted more, of course. That was impossible. To give more would have hurt the people I had to support monthly. I thoughtfully and carefully did what I could. That is when miracles began to happen. That's all I can say. Things just started to happen. One hospital bill that I had incurred during the height of my codependency, when I had viral meningitis, amounted to thousands of dollars. I had no insurance. I began to make small monthly payments. 6 months later, I received a letter from the hospital describing a special one-time program to wipe away certain outstanding debts. And I qualified, and my debt was wiped clean. Other debts slowly began to be paid off. Money to help came from unexpected sources. Fiscal responsibility is an important part of recovery. We can faithfully and responsibly do what we can as we are able. Sometimes we aren't certain what to do about a particular amend. We may be willing to make the amend, but unclear as to how to do so. Maybe the nature of our part is hazy. Maybe making the amend would bring harm to others, either to someone in our family or to the person to whom we are making the amend. Always, I've found that if I ask myself and my higher power what I need to do to make an amend, the answer comes. I'm guided into taking the best steps. Sometimes the person to whom we owe an amend is not available. Perhaps that person is deceased. Sometimes an even greater mess would result if we were to contact a particular person. We need to use discretion in our amends. Patiently wait for guidance and direction in this process of making amends. We need to take care of ourselves with people. We want the self-esteem, the peace, the harmony, and the relief from guilt that making amends brings about, but we do not want to run around in haste, creating more problems with our amends than we are solving. Alright, let's get that twisted a little bit. Here comes the train, and they have recently repaired these tracks, and so it'll be quieter. That's a theory, unless, I can get him to do that choo-choo horn at me, because I have never got too old to do the choo-choo. See if he makes a noise for us. Oh man, he's stopping. Sweetly. Did you hear that? That is so sweet. I feel special. All right. Here we go. Because I think I can read over that. But here's a little heads up. When it comes slow and steady like this, that means that the other train is going to come through. So it tends to come through hauling fast. All right, let's see what we can get done here. Oh man, I totally forgot to see it. Sometimes the person to whom we owe an amend is not available. Perhaps that oh, there we go. The person is deceased. Sometimes an even greater mess would result if we were to contact a particular person. We need to use discretion in our amends. Patiently wait for guidance. I'm trying to not have to redo this because, like I said, the fast train's about to come through. And my Lord, do I love that sound. A little, I mean, if you've been watching my videos for a while, you know I do like the trains. Grew up traveling, and I felt that the trains was the only thing that had anything in common with me. They've been everywhere, and they just go back and forth. Look at that. He must have known. That beautiful paint job. Okay, I better start reading, or we're gonna run out of time with this video. Patiently wait for guidance and direction in this process of making amends. We need to take care of ourselves with people. We want the self-esteem, the peace, the harmony, and the relief from guilt that making amends brings about. But we do not want to run around in haste, creating more problems with our amends than we are solving. It's a strange set of circumstances here. My spider, as I call it, that holds up my phone is cold and is not wanting to party all the time. So, and then no matter what I do, it looks crooked. We're gonna have to end this, aren't we? Here comes the other train. We need to be clear about what we're apologizing for, and the best way to say that. Our apology needs to count to us. What we're doing with amends is taking responsibility for our behavior. We need to figure out the best way to do that. We need to understand clearly what we are taking responsibility for. We need to ascertain that in this process of making amends, we aren't engaging in another behavior that will be self-defeating or damaging to others. If in doubt, ask our higher power. Talk to people in recovery. Listen to what they have to say. Wait until we have found a course of action that feels right to us. There is guidance and a clear path available for the amends we need to make. At times, that path leads to a direct contact and a direct apology for our behavior. There are times when what we most need to do to make amends is change our behavior with someone. There are times when restitution is appropriate, but there are times when bringing up what we have done and allowed ourselves... But there are times when bringing up what we have done and then apologizing for it would make matters worse. If we have allowed ourselves to become hooked into a particular person, allowed them to control us, or if we have been rescuing them, then feeling victimized by it, we may make the relationship worse by mentioning this. Hey, I've been letting you control me, and I'm mad. I've been rescuing you because I really didn't believe you could take care of yourself. Now I'm going to stop. That may make things worse because it sounds more like a confrontation than an amend. Understand that it is sometimes important to state these kinds of intentions. Sometimes it can be clarifying and healthy to state our behavioral goals clearly, but sometimes the best possible course we can take is to seek the path of our own self-care quietly. We become willing to make amends. And once we do that, we can let go and tackle our amends in a peaceful, consistent, harmonious way. If we are seeking to work this step, seeking to clear up our relationships with people, we will be led. We will know what we need to do and when and how to do it. If nothing feels right or appropriate, if it feels like what we are about to do will cause crisis or havoc, if we feel it is ill-timed, we can trust that too. If there are amends we cannot make now, we can make plans to do so later. This may be true with financial issues or with other kinds of amends. We may want to pay someone back, but we may not be able to do that responsibly now without depriving our family. But we can be willing to make that amend a goal. There may be someone we want to apologize to, but we cannot locate that person. We can still be willing. If we are willing, if we have done our work, we will be led to the right circumstances at the right time. There are some amends we cannot make. The person may be deceased or simply unavailable. We can discuss those amends with our higher power and then let go of them. Attitude, honesty, openness, and willingness count here. In peace and harmony, we can strive to clear up our discord in relationships. We can let go of our fears about facing people and taking responsibility for our behaviors, understanding that we are not diminishing our self-esteem by making amends, but improving it. We can let go of our fears about facing people and taking responsibility for our behaviors, understanding that we are not diminishing our self-esteem by making amends, but improving it. We don't have to grovel to make amends. We don't have to let someone abuse, manipulate, or mistreat us in the process of making amends. We quietly go about the task of taking care of ourselves with people in an attitude of self-respect. This is a program of forgiveness, not penance. We can make our amends clearly, directly, and cleanly. Making an amend to someone doesn't mean we have to allow ourselves to become hooked into them again. It doesn't mean we surrender and submit to mistreatment from them. Often the shorter the amend, the better. The cleaner and clearer, the better. The more direct, the better. The more it comes from the heart, the better. The more it is led by divine guidance, the better. Once we make an amend, the other person isn't responsible for clearing away our residue of fear, guilt, or shame. It is our job to let go of the incident, not theirs. On the other hand, we are not responsible for feelings the other person may have about the incident. That isn't our job. Our part is to make a direct amend, then do whatever work we need to do on ourselves to be done with our shame and guilt. We can forgive ourselves and let go of the incident. We can be gentle with ourselves. After taking this step, we can consider the issue resolved and let it go. If the process involves changing our behavior, we do not need to punish ourselves by feeling guilty until we have changed completely or perfectly. We can identify what we have done, make an amend, and be finished with our guilt. I'm going to try this. I'm going to read that again. I know that it's getting long. I don't even want to tell you. We got a lot more pages to go. Here we go. Once we make an amend, the other person is not responsible for clearing away our fear, guilt, or shame. It is our job to let go of it, not to theirs. On the other hand, we are not responsible for feelings that the other person may have about any specific incident. That is not our job. Our part is to make a direct amend and then do whatever work we need to do on ourselves to be done with our shame and guilt. We can forgive ourselves and let go of any incident. We can be gentle with ourselves. After taking this step, we can consider the issue resolved and let it go. If the process involves changing our behavior, we do not need to punish ourselves by feeling guilty until we have changed completely or perfectly. We can identify what we have done, make an amend, and be finished with our guilt. After we have made an amend, if the other person is unwilling to let the incident go, or if the other person wants us to stew in the problem for a while with them, that is their issue. We don't have to react and do something that might require another amend, and we do not have to dwell on the issue. We also don't have to apologize when we haven't done anything wrong. For many reasons, we may get into the habit of apologizing when it isn't necessary. A sense of shame can keep us apologizing for being alive, for being here, for being who we are. Some of us may feel like a bother and apologize for nearly every interaction that we have. This is not the purpose of this step. We may have gotten into the habit of apologizing for another person's behavior or automatically apologizing when the other person gets angry. We can learn to examine our behaviors and figure out what we did or didn't do. We can learn to discern when we have done something we legitimately need to apologize for, and when our codependency is prompting us to say that we're sorry. What? We can learn to examine our behaviors and figure out what we did or didn't do. We can learn to discern when we have done something we legitimately need to apologize for, and when our codependency is prompting us to say we're sorry. Oh, so we'll be able to tell the difference. Okay, there we go. Sometimes general apologies are helpful. Not all issues are clear, especially codependency issues. At times, it can clear the air simply to say, I'm sorry for the fuss we had. I'm sorry for the way I handled that incident. Other issues got in the way, and I'm sorry it happened. Sometimes I've said, I'm sorry if what I need to do to take care of myself hurt you. It was not intended or designed to do that. But we do not have to get codependent about our apologies. We don't have to apologize for our anger, only the inappropriate behaviors surrounding our anger. We don't have to apologize for taking care of ourselves, dealing with feelings, setting boundaries, having fun, feeling good, or becoming healthy. We do not have to apologize because people are trying to control us and induce guilt in us. We don't have to apologize for being here and for being who we are. We do not have to apologize for not wanting to be abused or mistreated. If we're doing all the apologizing for other people's behavior, it doesn't leave room for the people who truly need to apologize to do that. We don't have to repeat our apologies. That is annoying. If someone wants to keep extricating an apology from us for the same incident, that is their issue. We don't have to get hooked. If we feel like we need to continue apologizing, we may want to go back to the drawing board and figure out what's really going on. Sometimes we don't live up to our own expectations. That is human. That's why we have the words, I'm sorry. They heal and bridge the gap. But we don't have to say we are sorry if we didn't do anything wrong. Let's see. I really badly want to try to squeeze all this in here. But, okay. Alright, I'm going to try. I know that this is long, but if I can get the whole thing in here, then I managed it in 2 parts instead of 3. Making amends to ourselves. No, I changed my mind. I'm going to start with that one because that's pretty important. And I'm a little thirsty. And I'm going to take a break. And then finish with making amends to ourselves from step 9. And here again, I come with the... Dun, dun, dun. Here is our book that we are reading. Picture of my son when he was young. And the train. Thank you for being with me. I appreciate you for letting me read to you and share some of the outside noise.